My motivation for this video. This video is based on Ralph Vince's interview on Better System Trader. I will leave a link to the video down below. Setting up the problem. Suppose you have a Kelly score of F based on your historical trading performance. Recall that small f equals PW minus 1 minus PW all divided by R, whereby PW equals your winning probability and R equals your reward to risk ratio. The Kelly Criterion assumes you only have one position in your portfolio. But let's say you have M concurrent positions in your portfolio. What should be your total risk exposure? A bad guess. In order to solve this problem, let's set up some basic notation. Let small fm equal the optimal risk exposure for each position, which equals the positional risk exposure. And let big FM equal the total risk exposure, which equals M times small fm. The Kelly Criterion assumes you have a trading system that has a positive expectancy value. So as M tends towards infinity, your total risk exposure should converge to 1. Therefore, intuition dictates that the graph of total risk exposure as a function of M should look something like this. However, this graph is wrong. In fact, for any given Kelly score, there is an optimal amount of diversification that you should allow within your portfolio. The solution. Let M be a very large number. Under such a set of circumstances, you probably would not instigate all M positions at the same time. In fact, after you have instigated a position, you would probably need to wait a few weeks before you could instigate your next position. Let's use this observation to build a framework that will allow us to solve the problem. So, suppose we have a Kelly score of F and we need to instigate the first position of M positions. We will refer to this first position as our primary position or position 1, so that lambda 1 equal the required risk exposure for position 1. Once we have instigated our primary position, we wait a few weeks, after which we are ready to instigate our second position. We will refer to this second position as position 2, and let lambda 2 equal the required risk exposure for position 2. Naturally, we want position 2 to have a risk exposure that is equal to our Kelly score. This implies that lambda 2 equals 1 minus lambda 1 times small f. Now, we know that our primary position, position 1, must share the total risk exposure with n other positions, whereby n equals m minus 1. Furthermore, the positional risk exposure for our primary position should be equal to our Kelly score. In order to calculate the positional risk exposure for our primary position, we must assume that the other n positions within our portfolio will be losing positions. Therefore, the positional risk exposure for our primary position must adhere to the following condition. Small f equals lambda 1 divided by hn, whereby hn equals the leftover balance with respect to n, which equals the proportion of our trading account that we have left after we have ring-fenced the necessary cash for our n other positions. We can compute our leftover balance value as follows. Hn equals 1 minus 1 minus lambda 1 times small f minus 1 minus lambda 1 times 1 minus small f times f minus 1 minus lambda 1 times 1 minus small f squared times small f minus all the way until 1 minus lambda 1 times 1 minus small f to the power of n minus 1 times small f. We can simplify the above expression by allowing g to equal 1 minus small f. This gives us the following. Hn equals 1 minus lambda 1 times small f times 1 plus g squared plus all the way until g to the power of n minus 1. By using the sum of a geometric series, we have Hn equals 1 minus lambda 1 times f times 1 minus g to the power of n, all divided by 1 minus g, which equals 1 minus lambda 1 times small f times 1 minus g to the n. This gives us the following expression. Small f equals lambda 1 divided by hn, which equals lambda 1 divided by 1 minus lambda 1 times small f times 1 minus g to the n. We can rearrange this equation to calculate the positional risk exposure as a function of n and our Kelly score as follows. Lambda 1 equals g to the n times small f, all divided by 1 minus small f plus small f times g to the n. which equals 1 minus small f to the n times small f, all divided by 1 minus small f plus small f times 1 minus small f to the n. The key to understanding this mathematical model is to appreciate that in our portfolio, every position is a primary position. So we have big FM, which equals our total risk exposure with M concurrent positions in our portfolio, which equals M times lambda 1, which equals M times small f times 1 minus small f to the power of M minus 1, all divided by 1 minus small f plus small f times 1 minus small f to the power of M minus 1. And we have small fm, which equals our positional exposure with M concurrent positions in our portfolio, which equals big FM divided by M, which equals small f minus small f times 1 minus small f to the power of M minus 1, all divided by 1 minus small f plus small f times 1 minus small f to the power of M minus 1. Correlations. Our graph of total risk exposure as a function of M looks like this. The value M star indicates the optimal level of diversification that maximizes our total risk exposure, assuming that all the positions in our portfolio are uncorrelated to each other. Consequently, our positional risk exposure as a function of M looks like this. However, this graph is based on the assumption that all the positions in our portfolio are uncorrelated to each other. But most of the time, our positions will be somewhat correlated to each other. So how should we deal with this? In order to address this issue, let small f am equal our positional exposure with M concurrent positions in our portfolio, assuming that the positions are highly correlated to each other. Small f bm equal our positional exposure with M concurrent positions in our portfolio, assuming that the positions are not correlated to each other. And small fcm, which equals our positional exposure with M concurrent positions in our portfolio, assuming that the positions are somewhat correlated to each other. We know that small f am equals small f divided by M, and small f bm equals small fm. But how can we compute small f cm? Well, let C of ij equal the level of independence between position I and position j of our portfolio. If C of ij equals 0, then the positions in question are either highly positively correlated or highly negatively correlated, i.e. they are not independent of each other. And if C of ij equals 1, then the positions in question are independent of each other. In order to estimate the value of C of ij, we can use the modified percentile change performance metric that we discussed in my video about market leadership calculations. I will leave a link to the video in question down below. Let P hat X equal the P hat value of market X, and let delta of ij equal delta of subscript ij, which equals the absolute value of P hat I minus P hat j. We now need to generate an independence function, C of ij, which has the following three properties. Number one, when delta ij equals 0, then C of ij equals 0. Number two, when delta ij equals 0, then Cij equals 0. And number three, when delta ij approximately equals 1, then C of ij approximately equals 1. Therefore, let our independence function take the following form. C of ij equals delta ij times 2 minus delta ij. Now let C hat equal the average independence score across all the positions within our portfolio. Please note, whilst computing the value of this variable for your portfolio, once you calculate C of ij, then you don't need to calculate C of ji. And let K of C hat and M equal the independence score of our portfolio as a function of C hat and M. In order to estimate the shape of this graph, we can use the kind of mathematical argument that we discussed in my video about overall inflation scores concerning the use of average scores. I will leave a link to the video in question down below. When M equals 2, i.e. only one independent relationship between two positions, we have K of C hat and M equals C hat for when C hat is between 0 and 1, and 2 minus C hat for when C hat is between 1 and 2. Now, let us consider the more general case of when M is greater than 2. Under such a set of circumstances, allow K of C hat and M to approximately equals theta of C hat and M for when C hat is between 0 and 1, and theta of 2 minus C hat and M for when C hat is between 1 and 2, whereby theta of C hat and M is of the form 1 minus C hat to the power of A theta M plus B theta for coefficients A theta and B theta. Let's assume that our independence scores adhere to a triangular distribution between 0 and plus 2. When C equals C star, which equals the square root of 3 divided by 2, then the area under the graph between 0 and C hat is equal to a half times 3 over 4, which equals 3 over 8. Let's use C star as our anchor point. This implies the following. When we have two positions, this implies that theta of C star and 2 equals 3 over 8. And when we have three positions, this implies that theta of C star and 3 equals 1 minus 3 over 8 to the power of 3. With these boundary conditions, let's define the following quantity. W equals the natural log of 5 over 8 divided by the natural log of 2 minus the square root of 3, all divided by 2. This gives us a theta equals W minus B theta divided by 2, whereby B theta equals 3W minus 2 times the natural log of 27 over 512, all divided by the natural log of 2 minus the square root of 3 divided by 2. So we have small f Cm of C hat and M equals small f Am plus small f Bm minus small f Am times K of C hat and M, which equals small f divided by M plus small fm minus small f over M times K to the power of C hat and M. Therefore, the required total risk exposure for a portfolio of M positions and an average independent score of C hat is equal to big F Cm to the power of C hat and M, which equals M times big F Cm to the power of C hat and M, which equals small f plus small fm minus small f over M times K to the power of C hat and M. If you have any questions, then please either send me an email or leave a comment down below. Thank you for your time and happy trading.